Also, I was at the retreat also on Saturday, and it was fine, except for the beginning when the mayor tried to exclude 4 of our citizens from the meeting room, saying that it was too small, which it was not. But we did, after taking a vote of the council, manage to get 4 people in that room. There was no problem with the seating arrangements at all. There was plenty of room for 4 people, but I do think that at some point, maybe that room might be too small to actually physically get very many people in there. But these are open meetings, and no one has more of a right to sit and observe one of those meetings than you, the people in our city. You don't have any more or less of a right than any of us up here on the council. And I would ask that in the future, we try to schedule these things at a place where the mayor's not going to have an opportunity to say, you can't come in here because there's not enough room. We try to do that in the future. Also, I wanted to ask, a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, months ago, we asked about the Roscoe ordinance and what the process was that was in. I haven't heard anything back in a study session or anything else on that. What's the status of that, Mr. Planner?
Mr. Benson, that was not anything that the council agreed to. We said we would look into it at a future time. It was not on our agenda for any time coming up. And when you use the we, and I imagine what you're saying is the royal we, rather than the council we.
No, I'm not using that. I'm saying that this council, you directed the staff to look into this and make a presentation to us about Roscoe. That was probably about 2 months ago. And that hasn't happened yet, and I'm trying to find out why it has not happened.
I do not believe that that was the direction at any time.
Well, I believe it was, but anyway, there was also something about 2 weeks ago about Mr. Romine brought up a possible compensation increase for the council. I think the staff was directed by the mayor to look into that. We haven't had any presentation on that yet. And I know that last week we did have a matter on first reading regarding prohibition of weapons at council meetings. That was something that was only barely discussed the week before that, and somehow that made it, that skipped the study session process and made it to a voting meeting as a matter of first reading in 1 week. I'd like to know how that occurred and who was behind that. Who was behind circumventing the process that we normally go through to get something on our ordinance agenda on first reading? Who was responsible for that?
I believe that was the council also. They said they needed it dealt with as quick as possible.
I don't remember that.
And Mr. Benson, just so the audience understands, the only reason we were doing that ordinance was for you, because there is a certain fear level that council has regarding the possibility that you might bring in a firearm to this room.
Sir, you are the only person who's ever brought a firearm into a council meeting.
Well, that's not exactly true, because any police officer could do that.
I think it is true. And here's the picture that somebody took of you. We have to pass that down.
I think that we should look at our council protocols about basically attacking each other at a council meeting or at a personal level, and that is one of the rules that we had set forth.
It was the mayor that brought up
this is getting a little
pointed
at each other and a little personal.
Then when do we bring these things up? The mayor started this 2 weeks ago when he brought up the issue about weapons, asking me personally a question, aiming that directly at me. He set the precedent for doing that. Now I'll respond to that with the same kind of a question. He's the only person who's ever brought a loaded weapon into a Commerce City Council meeting, as far as I know.
And that was the first and last time that happened. That was the first and only time that happened.
That's right. That was the mayor. And I have never brought a loaded weapon into the council chambers. He has, and he's the one trying to lay this off on me.
Mr.
That's not going to work.
As parliamentarian, I'd like to interject. This time of the meeting is for reports from the city council and not to engage in the dialogue between council members or staff or members of the audience regarding an issue that appears to be controversial. So my suggestion is you move on with the reports and so that this meeting may proceed as planned.
And Mr. Gator, I would certainly agree with that, except 2 weeks ago, as you know, the mayor set the precedent of allowing that sort of thing to occur by asking the questions himself. When he sets the precedent, I'll follow that precedent. But don't try to blame me for bringing up that ordinance or bringing up the issue that made that ordinance necessary. You, sir, are the only one who's ever brought a loaded weapon into a council meeting. Don't do it again.
Is your report over?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.